Good morning. We're just going to give folks a moment to enter from the waiting room and connect to audio. As a reminder, when you are entering from the waiting room, please do remain on mute unless or until you are testifying before the board. Good morning. This is a hearing before the licensing board for the city of Boston. Today is Tuesday, June 27th, 2023. Today's hearing is being held pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. Today's hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the city of Boston's website. Before I review procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Morning, my name is Kathleen Joyce, and Chair of the Boston Licensing Board, and today I'm pleased to be joined by Commissioner Liam Curran and Commissioner Kiana Saxon.
Thank you. Please ensure that your audio and visuals are working properly. I will call each item in the order that it appears on this morning's agenda. I will then ask who is present on behalf of the licensee, who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department, and whether there are any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify. I will then swear in all parties. After that, the police report will be read into the record, and the licensee or their representative will have the opportunity to make a brief statement, followed by questions by the chair and commissioners. Again, all testimony will be limited only to those individuals with firsthand personal knowledge of the alleged incident. Beginning with item number 1 on this morning's agenda, calling Game On Fenway LLC, doing business as Game On Sports Cafe, located at 72 to 82 Lansdowne Street. The date of the incident, December 11th, 2022, was a 911 call for a staff versus patron assault and battery in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dennis Quilty, attorney representing the licensee. With me this morning, Rufus Arafej. I probably butchered that. I apologize, Rufus. Oh, wow, I got it. Katina Cora, who was the one of the management staff on duty that night. Katina Corapines, who's the license administrator for the Lions Group. And I believe, is Carlos Pedraquita with us? Katina? No.
Yes, I'm here.
There you go. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant Michael Sullivan.
And Officer Hassan.
Thank you very much. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Who will be reading the police report into the record? Sergeant Sullivan or Officer Hassan?
Officer Hassan is the original incident. I have the supplemental read after.
Great. Thank you, Officer Hassan. You may please proceed.
Okay, about 02:09 a.m. on Sunday, 12/11/2022, Officer Hassan and Allen, while assigned as the Delta 105 Alpha unit, responded to a radio call for a fight at 61 Brookline Ave, Boston. Game On. Upon arrival, officers were approached by a victim later identified as Nicholas Manfra, DOB 12/5/1999, who stated to the officers that he was punched in the face by a suspect later identified as Dante Forgi, DOB 5/2/2001. The victim said he was walking out of Game On when the suspect punched him. Officers did observe a small cut to the victim's lips. The victim refused EMS and left the above location. The suspect Forgi told the officers that the victim started pushing him for no reason. The suspect said he walked away from the victim to avoid a fight. It should be noted that both parties were highly intoxicated and could not provide further information about the incident. While the officers were on scene, another person approached the officers, identified as Dylan Prescott, DOB 9/8/1999. Mr. Prescott stated that one of the bouncers who worked for Game On stole his gold chain, approximately worth 2,000 US currency dollars. Mr. Prescott said the bouncer put his hands around his neck and snatched his gold chain. Officer spoke with the manager of Game On, identifies Rufus, and excuse me for the name, Arafiji, DOB 4/14/1995, who stated to the officers that his bouncers did not steal a gold chain from Mr. Prescott. Mr. Arafiji said his employees were trying to get patrons out of the bar when a fight ensued outside. Mr. Arafiji stated the bouncers tried to separate everyone and move them from his business. Officers observed multiple surveillance cameras both inside and outside the business. Mr. Prescott was advised a police report would be generated for the incident. Per Sergeant Sullivan, Delta 912, a code 25, which is licensed premise, will be conducted later due to a high call volume in the district.
Mr. Green, should we just read the supplemental into the record as well?
Thank you. Yes, Sergeant Sullivan, will you be reading that in?
I will, of course. At
Thank
about 4:54 PM on Sunday, 12/11/22, I, along with Officer Diaz, responded to 61 Brookline Ave, Game On, to conduct a licensed premise inspection, a code 35. I was aware of a 911 call from the early morning hours of 12/11/22 involving both staff members of Game On and patrons of the establishment. In response, I conducted a code 35 on that afternoon. While in scene, I met with the manager, Mr. Carlos Piedrahita, to review the establishment's licenses. I found the staff to be cooperative and the license to be conspicuously posted. License premise inspection notice number 043008 was issued.
Thank you very much. Attorney Quilty, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Mr. Green. If I may, just very briefly, Sergeant Sullivan, you came on the scene later that day and conducted the code 35, correct?
Yes, sir.
And they cooperated with you at that time?
They certainly did.
Thank you very much, sir. I have no further questions for the sergeant. If I may, with Officer Hassan. Officer, yes, sir. Thank you. You responded and arrived at the scene after the whatever had occurred between these two people had already taken place. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you spoke to Mr. Arafiji and Mr. Pedrahita on scene?
No, sir. I only spoke with the manager, Rufus Arafiji. I
Okay.
only spoke with him.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. If I could just first speak to this chain incident. Our information, and we would testify to that this person lost his chain and actually lost his cell phone. And those items were given back to him on the night in question. Do you have any?
I'm not aware that the only thing that I was told and that's in the police report was the gold chains that he claimed the bouncers snatched from him, from his neck.
Okay, so you have no personal knowledge that the chain was actually returned to him that night?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay, thank you, sir. In any event, you didn't see anyone strike anyone or anyone steal any gold chain or any such thing, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you told that at around closing time, the individual who believe Mr. Manfra was asked to leave, that he had attempted to pour himself a beer in the downstairs bar? Did anyone tell you that?
No, sir.
Okay. And did anyone tell you that he was standing outside the establishment after they got him outside, trying to egg on people on the street and inside and using the N-word to go after staff? Did anyone tell you that?
No, sir. There was a whole crowd down there, so I don't recall them telling me that. No, sir.
Okay. But Mr. Arafiji, hopefully we're pronouncing that correctly, did speak to you and provided you information?
Yes, sir.
Okay, was he cooperative with you?
Very cooperative.
Okay, and were other staff members cooperative with you?
I didn't engage with many of the staff in there. Mr. Arafiji was the one that I mainly talked to. I believe he was the manager that night.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, officer.
Wrong, sir.
No further questions. If I may, Madam Chair, could I question Mr. Arafiji? Thank you. Sir, you've been sworn. Just state your name again for the record and tell us your position on the night in question with the licensee.
My name is Rufus Arafega, and I was a manager at Game On.
Okay. And at some point in the evening, did you become aware of an incident that was occurring outside the premises?
I was actually, so I was off duty coming into this incident. I was on the street. We have other vendors from the streets. I was on the street. I arrived game on. And I was told about the incident. And I separated our staff first off, before like addressing the other patrons.
Okay, and what did you do when you got there?
The first thing I did was ask our staff to go inside. And as I was doing that, the guy was calling the cops.
Okay.
Guy that lost his,
When you say the guy, which guy was that?
the guy that lost his chain.
The guy that lost his chain. So when you arrived on the scene and observed this, you knew that the police had already been called.
Yes,
Okay. Were you present? Was that gold chain returned to this individual?
yes, it was.
Okay. And do we know what happened with regard to the gold chain?
I was told it was found downstairs with his phone.
Okay.
And I was going in while he was talking to the cops. It was given to me, and I gave it to the patron.
So you gave it to his chain and his phone, you gave it to this individual?
Yeah.
Okay. And can you tell us anything about the individual who I'm told by other staff members was outside calling people names and trying to egg on people to fight him outside?
Yeah, so when I got there, like I said, so I talked to the staff, and Kevin had told me what happened. So at that point, I was like, hey, he's intoxicated, he's not gonna listen to anyone, he wants to fight. When the cops came there, it was very helpful because he was also, while I was trying to talk to him, he was trying to fight me as well, or like just go back and forth. So the cops just came in, they kind of got him try to get him to relax, and he was just going back and forth. But they got the right in time for me to just step back and give them my side of the story, and it took care of the rest.
Okay. And is that the individual you're referring to who tried to fight with you? Is that the individual they say, the police report says the victim, which I think is this person, Manfra, refused EMS and left the above location? Did he just walk away?
I believe so.
Okay. And did you, in your opinion, did you cooperate with the police, provide them information?
I
that
did.
night? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. The board may have some questions. We do have Mr. Pedrahita, who is also there on the night in question, if you would like to question him as well.
All right. My name is Carlos Piedrahita. I'm one of the managers at Game On that day. English, I'm sorry guys, English is not my first language, so I'm gonna read my statement. Okay. So on Sunday, 11 December 22 at 1:50 a.m., Game On security was clearing the building. When I came to the door, there was a patron standing at the entrance, yelling at other patrons and staff. Security told the man multiple times that he cannot return to the building because we are closed. He began to try to open the door, and another patron tried to punch the staff security in the face. From that, security asked the guy to leave multiple times, and he refused. From that moment, he became more aggressive towards security and calling them niggers. I'm telling them to come closer so they can fight. The man walked up to security, began to push them. Security moved the man from the front of the door to the side, where he started to fight with other patrons. Security was trying to break up the fight when the police arrived. There were no punches, kicks, anything of that nature from security staff.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. The board may have some questions for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll turn to the board to see if there are any questions. Chairwoman Joyce, any questions?
Thank you. Officer Hassan, in the police report, it states that it should be noted that both parties were highly intoxicated. Are you referring to the employee who was highly intoxicated?
No, ma'am, I am not referring to that. I'm
Okay.
referring to the first victim, or the victim and the suspect, which is Nicholas Manfra and Dante Forgi. I'm referring to them.
Okay,
So in total, there were 3 parties in this call, in this report.
okay, so Dante Forgi does not work for Game On Sports Cafe?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
Nor does this other individual, Dylan Prescott. Those are people who were outside the establishment night in question.
Was there any video of any of this?
Madam Chair, we unfortunately, okay, Ms. Corpines is here today. She did a complete search. There was a breakdown, unfortunately, in communications here. We normally have and have provided to the board video of everything that occurs. There was new staff involved in this incident who did not realize that these things run over and refilm. And unfortunately, we cannot provide any tape. Katina, can you explain what occurred?
Yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Pahidra had only been with Game On in his position for a few months. During that time, Game On's surveillance system had been upgraded, revamped, and he wasn't actually trained on how to save and download footage. And by the time he was able to be trained, the footage had been recorded over. So unfortunately, we do not have surveillance for this incident.
Madam Chair, I do want to point out to the board that this licensee in particular, and Ms. Corpines, this is one of her main responsibilities. We provide tape, have provided tape every incident we've been involved in, and apologize for this circumstance. It's literally a mistake on our part.
Okay, I have no further questions. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions at this time?
What was Prescott involved in this, in like an altercation outside too?
It appears he's the one that was in a beef with the other individual is all we can tell. I mean, the persons named in the report are not employees. So you've got Mr. Forgy and Mr. Prescott appear to be two of the people who were mouthing at each other outside, but other than that, we don't have any information.
So I currently have Manfred and 4G engaged with each other, right?
I'm sorry, I did not get that, Commissioner.
In the report, it says that Manfred and 4G were in an altercation, right?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, was Prescott involved in that altercation, or was it completely separate?
Completely separate, sir.
Completely separate, okay. So were there multiple altercations going on at closing this night?
So I don't have the actual call in front of me, but when we got the call, it said a fight outside, a group fighting outside of Game On. That's what we responded to.
Okay. And what was it seem like when you arrived? Were there multiple fights, or did you see any fights?
No, normally when we respond to such call, we go with lights and sirens, and usually when they hear that, they break away and leave.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
How many staff and how many patrons?
I'm sorry, I did not hear that.
How many staff and how many patrons that evening?
Rufus, can you tell us how many
Are we talking about how many people were outside or how many pictures are in the?
how many people were on staff, I think is one of the questions, and the other is
Okay.
how many patrons do we?
We did have, when I arrived there, we had about 8 security guys. And how many pictures on the building that night? I do not recall.
This was by this time, Commissioner Saxon, the establishment had been closed and this was all happening outside.
Any further questions from the board? Board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 2, Galway Inc. doing business as The Harp located at 85 Causeway Street. Date of the incident, January 15th, 2023. Intoxicated patron in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. And assault and battery staff on patron in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Again, good morning, Attorney Green and Commissioners, and Madam Chair, Dennis Quilty, attorney representing the licensee. With me is James Roberts.
Thank you very much. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
That would be me, Sergeant Coughlin, Sergeant Timothy Coughlin.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you both please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Sergeant Coughlin, if you could please proceed with the police report.
I will. About 12:53 a.m. on Sunday, 1/15/23, Officer Evelyn, Alpha 425, responded to a radio call. Just myself, Sergeant Coughlin, the Gold 905, with the disturbance at the Hop, 85 Causeway downtown. On arrival, Officer Evelyn spoke with the Echo 911, that was the caller, the victim, and identified as Michael Baldassare, date of birth 4/22/96, who stated that he'd been kicked out of the harp and violently shoved to the ground by a bouncer. Note, it should be noted for the report writing purposes that the victim Baldassare was unable to identify or describe the bouncer he alleged had shoved him to the ground. It should be further noted that the victim was extremely intoxicated when speaking with the officers on scene and changed his story as to what occurred several times. Officer Evelyn had observed the victim to have a bloody lip off all EMS. However, the victim refused numerous times, stating he was uninjured. The victim was advised to leave the area if he was refusing medical attention, medical treatment, and was verbally trespassed for returning to the Hop in the future. Officer Evelyn and myself, Sergeant Coughlin, then spoke with Daniel McCann and Robert Guest from the Hop's management team. McCann firmly denied Baldassare's allegations that the member of the Hop's door security team had assaulted him in any way. McCann, the witness, further stated that he saw Baldassare fall to the ground on his face outside of the bar after he had been kicked out, and stated that Baldassare had been asked to leave after he was found passed out in the employee kitchen area of the bar. McCann stated that after Baldassare was removed, he stood outside of the bar, paraded, and attempted to provoke the doorman to violence. Coughlin, Gold 905, conducted a code 35 license premise inspection, violation 59102 to manager Robert D.
Thank you very much. Attorney Quilty, would you like to address the alleged incident?
If I may, thank you very much. Is it Sergeant? Yes.
Yes,
I'm sorry. Sergeant, were you actually performing a paid detail at the establishment the night in question?
yes, I was.
So you were performing a detail and you ended up writing this up.
Correct.
And your inspection notice indicates that management cooperated with you?
Yes, they're very cooperative.
Okay. And did at some point, did staff show you a video of this individual falling down?
Later in the night, the staff was trying to review video, and they had some outside footage, and I believe it was kind of off to the right a little, where it showed what appeared to be someone falling. I couldn't tell if it was the individual involved or not, but they did have some video.
Okay. And I know you couldn't tell, but did they say to you that this was the individual when they showed you the film?
I believe they believed it was the individual.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Sergeant. I appreciate that. If I may ask Mr. Roberts a few questions. Thank you. Mr. Roberts, you've been sworn in. Just identify yourself for the record, please.
Jamie Roberts, General Manager of the Harp.
Okay. And do you have knowledge of the incident referenced in this report?
Yes, I was working that evening.
Okay. And what in your opinion, or what happened that you're aware of? What did
Well,
you-
we found this gentleman in the kitchen area and escorted him outside, and he was standing outside for quite some time, berating some of the staff. We just kind of ignored him, left him off to the side. Sergeant Coughlin was, I believe, inside at the time, but it wasn't really, it was just verbal beratement, so we just kind of ignored him. Then he appeared to fall to the ground, and then he gets up and he does not know what happened, and he gets up and he goes after Daniel McGann, one of the managers. It's a quick incident. He doesn't strike Danny, so we just break it up and put him against the wall again, and then he states to Officer Coughlin that he was assaulted by a member of the Harp staff.
And do you have the video wherein it shows the individual
Video of
falling?
this, I will provide the board.
Okay, we'll provide that, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Roberts. The commissioners may have some questions for you.
Thank you very much. Chairman Joyce, any questions for the licensee or for the sergeant?
Excuse me, yes. How long was his patron inside of the harp?
I'm not fully aware. I would say, I do not know the exact length of time he was inside the harp. I know there was an event at the garden that night too.
Do you have any information about how many drinks he may have been served?
I do not.
Any more details about his being kicked out of the bar? Excuse me.
Just that one of my staff found him, just one of the bar backs found him when they were going through the kitchen to our liquor room area, and we escorted him outside.
Does anyone know?
It's an area where.
Yeah.
I'm
Just
sorry.
curious how long this patron was there, whether he was served drinks at your establishment. What maybe the doorman observed when he entered. Any information, any internal reports that you can share?
I do not. I could do some investigating, maybe find a name on a credit card, but I do not know.
Okay. Commissioner Curran might have some questions of Commissioner Saxon.
What did you do anything in response to this regarding him getting access to the back in that liquor room area?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit on me.
I'm sorry, I think my computer's breaking up today.
Yeah, there's a feedback on when you're speaking.
Is there? Yeah, I'm sorry. Just, can you describe a little bit more about how he got in the back area? And then you said near the liquor room area.
Well, the kitchen area is downstairs. We have a bar downstairs. We have a room downstairs with music. It's possible that we usually have a door person stationed at the corner of the bar, blocking the door to the kitchen. But if he went to the restroom or walked away from that post, it's possible that he just slid back into the kitchen without anybody seeing him.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing additional. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything further from the board? Board will take this matter under advisement as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Calling item number 3, the Boston Leco Corp. doing business as Legacy Boston located at 71 to 79 Warrington Street. Date of the incident, March 4th, 2023. Employee on patron assault and battery in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 130 and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Terrence Gathers.
Charles Del Pidio.
Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective Dugal here. I saw his name on the,
I do see Detective Dugal's name in the guest list. Detective Dugal, are you with us? See if I can find him and ask to unmute.
I see his name there. Otherwise, Lieutenant Detective Troy, I can read the incident report.
Thank you. Yeah, I've asked Detective Dugal to unmute, but it doesn't seem that he's responsible. Lieutenant Troy, are you able to read it in?
Just see if I can email him quickly here. But you can swear me and I can read the incident report.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Yes, I do. My name is Rashawn. I'm also Arabella. I was working as performer and host of that night.
Great. Thank you very much. Can all those who are planning to testify, please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
Thank you. Lieutenant Troy, then will you be able to, will you please read the police report to the record?
Sure. Reading from the original incident report, and this is written by Officer Alvin, and it's from March 4th, 2023, and it reads as follows. About 2:30 a.m. on Saturday, March 4th, 2023, Officer Alvin, Officer Grady Murray, and the Alpha 103 responded to a radio call for a large fight outside Legacy nightclub, 79 Warrington Street. There's a note here. The entirety of the incident was captured on flare cameras, and A1 detectives were notified to preserve all footage of the incident. While all available Area A1 units rapidly responded to the scene, the Channel 2 dispatcher updated the 911 call, noting multiple people fighting with knives. On arrival, Officer Alvin observed a highly chaotic and unruly group of 15 to 20 intoxicated individuals shouting and fighting in the street. Officer Alvin observed multiple parties screaming for help and running in all directions, including numerous individuals with blood-stained clothing and apparent visible injuries of varying severity. There's a note here also. Officer Alvin observed the fight was confined to the front entry and curtilage of 79 Warrington Street, Legacy, away from several adjacent licensed premises. Due to all the commotion and ongoing melee outside the nightclub, Officer Alvin advised responding units to exercise increased caution out of concern for officer safety, because it was unclear upon arrival who the victims and suspects were and whether or not weapons were involved. Officer Alvin then observed a 20 to 30-year-old light-skinned black male with a yellow jacket covered in blood lying on the ground. Officer observed 3 to 4 of the black males assisting the individual to his feet and attempting to walk away. Officer Alvin immediately requested EMS, rendered aid, and checked for additional injury and found none. Officers observed the individual to be drifting in and out of consciousness and was unable to speak. EMTs responded and transported victim number 1 to Tufts Medical Center with serious bodily injuries, a broken jaw, and he was identified as Juan Davis, with an address in Houston, Texas. Sergeant Whiteman, the Alpha 906 and Area A officer spoke to Linda Knapp, Terrence Gathers of Legacy Management Team. Ms. Knapp and Gathers assisted officers in identifying multiple employees suspected as potentially involved in the incident in some capacity, victims, suspects, and witnesses, etc. These individuals are identified below: Rashawn Prelu, Andre Lozano, and somebody named Frenchie. The following patrons were identified to be involved in the incident in some capacity: Dennis Hodge. Officer Alvin spoke to Mr. Hodge. Mr. Hodge stated that prior to the officer's arrival, he and several friends, including Davis, Fletcher, and Martin, were attacked outside the Legacy nightclub by several bar and club staff members, including a Hispanic bouncer later identified on flare cameras as Lozano, a drag queen later identified as Prelu, and a DJ later identified as Frenchie. Hodge stated that Lozano knocked out Davis, Fletcher, and Martin. Hodge further stated he was punched in the face by Prelu several times. Officer Alvin spoke to Mr. Fletcher, and Mr. Fletcher's statements corroborated the statements made by Mr. Hodge that Lozano assaulted him, Davis, and Martin outside the club without provocation. Sergeant Whiteman was notified the Area detectives and the licensed premises inspection to be conducted at a later date. There's an additional report here from Detective Dugal, an investigative report, which I'll read if you like.
Excuse me, Lieutenant.
You are here. Okay,
Sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, no worries. Thank you for joining us, Detective. You have not been sworn in, correct? I believe you were unable to.
Correct.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Detective Dugal, if you could please read your report into the record.
About 2:30 a.m. on Saturday, March 4th, 2023, numerous Boston police officers assigned to District A1 responded to a radio call for a large fight in the rear of Legacy nightclub, 79 Warrington Street in the Theater District, downtown Boston. Upon arrival, officers observed a highly chaotic and unruly group of 15 to 20 intoxicated individuals shouting and fighting in the street. Officers observed multiple parties screaming for help and running in all directions, including numerous individuals with blood-stained clothing and apparent visible injuries of varying severity. One of the individuals lying on the sidewalk opposite of Legacy with a considerable amount of blood surrounding him and was bleeding from his head. The victim, later identified as being Quan Davis, was drifting in and out of consciousness when was unable to speak to officers prior to being transported to Tufts Medical Center for treatment. Detective Dugal was able to speak with Davis via phone and through email following the incident. Davis stated that his jaw had been wired shut due to being broken during the incident, and he emailed detective multiple times after attempts to speak over the phone. Davis stated that he had been at Legacy for 3 straight nights and knew that there was a bouncer named quote unquote Dre. Davis said a short time after the club closed on March the 4th, he and his friends, Dennis Hodges, Ignatius Martin, and Markeith Fletcher, were waiting on the opposite side of Warrenton Street for their Uber. Davis stated that his friend Martin got into a scuffle with some quote unquote locals, and he and Hodges broke it up. After breaking up the scuffle, Davis said that quote unquote Dre came out of nowhere, struck him with a quote unquote uppercut, and knocked him out. The next thing Davis remembers is waking up in the hospital. Davis described himself that night as wearing a yellow jacket. Davis said he recognized the man who struck him as being quote unquote Dre because he knew who he was from being at Legacy for 3 straight nights. Detectives spoke to Dennis Hodges, who stated the following. He and his friends, Martin and Davis, were talking out back, and a quote unquote drag queen came over and asked some questions and loudly told them, Hodges, Martin, and Davis, that this is their city and why are you here? Hodges said that the drag queen then reached over and hit his friend Ignatius. A scuffle ensued during which Hodges and Martin were repeatedly struck. Hodges said that the scuffle had calmed down when a security guard came out of nowhere and hit Davis and Martin along with the drag queen. Hodges describes himself as wearing a yellow hoodie with a maroon vest over it and having a gray walking boot on the night of the incident. Hodges said that Martin is a light-skinned male who was wearing a blue jacket and standing next to Hodges when he was initially struck. Detectives spoke with Deshaun Plord, who stated they were a host and a performer at Legacy and was working the night of the incident. Plord stated that a group of men from somewhere down south, Tennessee perhaps, were in Legacy, and one had violated the VIP policy by being behind a rope. Plord said that later on, they were performing, that one of the men was outside making transphobic statements, no specific statements provided. Plord said that they approached the men in question and attempted to speak with them. Plord said that one of the men stepped toward them aggressively, so they hit the man. Plord said that a scuffle ensued, which they and the club DJ, quote unquote Frenchie, were struck multiple times. Detectives spoke to Andre Lozano via telephone. Lozano said that he was working security at Legacy the night of the incident. Lozano said he was notified by a coworker that Legacy employees were being attacked by a group of men on Warrenton Street. Lozano said that he could hear someone banging on the back door to Legacy from Warrenton Street. Lozano proceeded outside and observed a group of men he recognized from being in Legacy the last few nights, including that evening. Lozano said he immediately separated the crowd, and then his attention was drawn to a man in a yellow jacket who said something to the effect of, quote unquote, you're going to get cut. Lozano said the man gestured as if he had a knife, so Lozano struck the man. Detective was able to view video footage of the incident. After speaking with the above listed persons, detective was able to identify the participants/combatants. Hodges and Martin appear to be speaking on the sidewalk across the street from Legacy on Warrenton Street. Plord approaches them and appears to begin a heated exchange with the two. After a few moments, Plord begins to strike Martin in Martin's face. Martin strikes Plord in retaliation before Plord pushes Martin down on the sidewalk. Davis and other unidentified combatants are seen pushing and swinging at each other as Hodges and others continue their attempts to intervene. The skirmish begins to settle and parties are separated when Lozano appears from Legacy. Lozano stands between the parties for a moment and then strikes Davis in the face. Davis falls on the sidewalk and appears to be unconscious. Lozano then hits another unidentified person, knocking them to the ground. Lozano is seen joining Plord and repeatedly striking Martin. Plord and Lozano's statements are not consistent with what the detective was able to view on the recorded camera footage. Detective will seek complaints in Boston Municipal Court for the following: Andre Lozano, assault and battery causing serious bodily injury, to wit, broken jaw; assault and battery against Martin; Rashawn Plord, assault and battery. And I have one more report for the code 35. About 8:35 p.m. on Thursday, March 23rd, 2023, Detectives Dugal and McDonough responded to Legacy Nightclub, 79 Warrenton Street, to conduct a code 35. Manager Terrence Gathers was on scene and signed the Boston Police License Premise Inspection Violation Notice number 23,690 for employee on patron assault and battery.
Thank
And
you
that
very much, Detective Dugal. Mr. Delpidio, Mr. Gathers, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, I just got a couple of questions for Detective Dugal. Detective, do you did the management help police that arrived that night? Because you were not there. The police that arrived that night, did the management help in every way, shape, and form?
As far as I know, yes.
Did the police report that we assisted when the victim in the yellow jacket had, quote unquote, victim got up and fled the scene?
I'm sorry, what are you asking?
Let me rephrase. Where did the hospital, the ambulance service, the ambulance didn't actually come to the Warrenton Street because he had actually got up and ran away. Am I right?
I wasn't there that night. I know he got into an ambulance and went to Tufts Medical Center.
Because did they have in a report that a police officer and Linda Knapp actually gave chase and tried to stop him because he got up and ran away, and they could not catch him, and he actually got into the ambulance closer to the W. He ran up to an ambulance over there, but they couldn't find him for a while, and we assisted that.
Okay.
All right, so I just, that was some of the other, it was a female officer that was there on site that.
Yes, Officer Alvin.
Yes. However, so that night in question, I'll just go along with my part of it. That night in question, I was inside the office and we were closed. The night was over. It was approximately 2:35, 2:30. My cell phone goes off and I pick up my cell phone and it's saying, there's a problem out here. There's a problem. You got to get out of here. You got to get out of here. I started heading upstairs. When I'm coming through the room, I yelled back to the other manager, "We have a disturbance outside, call the police." I go upstairs. When I get out there, I noticed the guy across the street in the yellow jacket laying on the ground. When I seen him, I'm walking over and people are yelling, "Terrence, watch out, knife, knife, knife." So I'm just kind of looking around, but I'm going to go over there and see if this guy's okay. I don't know what's going on. I check his body and everything else. I call on my radio because it's only, we're closed already, but the management keeps radios on until we're out of the building. And I called on the radio and said, "Linda, I'm going to need a EMT with that police call." And I checked to make sure he didn't have any, stab wounds or anything like that on his body. Turned back around. I didn't want to move him or anything like that. We came back downstairs. At that point, police was already coming, came back upstairs and met with the police officers. Once the sergeant was on scene and everything else, we had separated as many people that was on one side of the argument inside the club and allowed the police to have them outside. One of the officers asked us to come downstairs to speak to Arabella, because I had Arabella, who is otherwise known as Rashad, brought her downstairs. I informed him one of those guys was a little bit out of control, and that was the one in the blue jacket. And I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but As we came up to the top of the stairs, he tried to rush past me and the officer to attack her. They cuffed him, put him up against the wall. At that point, that's when she started screaming, he's getting away. And that's when the guy in the yellow had got up and ran. And he was heading toward Charles Street. And he ran around the corner. Linda and the female officer gave chase, but they lost him. The sergeant and the other officers uncuffed the gentleman, came downstairs, questioned more people. We gave them all the information they asked for when it came to who was involved that we know of and everything like that. Allowed them to take pictures of time cards, everything along those lines. And later, when I met you and the other officer, you guys came in, you gave that, you requested all video or any type of information. I conducted my investigation. I got 3 different ground level videos that I turned into the detective. Detective, you recall that?
Yeah, I have those videos.
Okay. And so I gave you that and also the door footage from our club. At that point, I had to put people on suspension pending the outcome of this because that's just our policy.
Thank you. Anything further, Mr. Gathers or Mr. Del Video?
It's just that the video will tell just about everything that really went on. And it's unfortunate that this happened. And these patrons were not our regular customers, but they were in town for the weekend, I believe. So totally unfortunate. It was out of control outside for sure. And when the police arrived, you know, they finally got it taken care of.
Not to interrupt you, but one more thing. During my investigation and getting those videos, you know, upon the police request, I also found out that they actually had, I wish I knew this beforehand, but they actually, you know, some of the customers were informing me that before they arrived to Legacy that night, that they actually had an assault on other people at another gay bar that's close by. And what's the name of that place? Club Cafe. Yeah, Club Cafe. And you know, so their whole temperament that night, I guess, was just not, but that was what I was told as I was getting all the video.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in and ask you to submit any video that you do have to the board. If the police have any additional video to make sure the board is able to obtain copies of that.
Unfortunately, I didn't keep a copy for myself. I did give it to, I gave all video to Detective
Okay.
I want to butcher your name, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Madam Chairwoman, how can I submit that video to you?
If you can submit it electronically, that would be the best to licensing board at boston.gov. Otherwise, we can also take a thumb drive or a CD in
You can send it to me, Carl, and I'll forward it.
Okay.
Is there anyone else from Legacy that would like to testify before I ask a few questions?
Rashawn, you had your hand raised to testify as well, correct?
Yes, I did. I was part of that situation that happened. And so, you know, just from the start here is that these patrons, when they came in, I met them Thursday, the night before. And so I may go back and forth saying things like yesterday and today, just putting myself in the space up. So just bear with me when I say yesterday, I'm talking about Thursday. And so on Thursday, I met these patrons or these members. They came over from a different club. They were talking about, they were down at the show. We have a local drag show that happens on Thursday. They were there for a little while. Then at the end of the night, they were expressing that they weren't having a lot of fun, that they didn't really come for a drag show. So I said to them that I was like, you know, we had a good conversation. All of us outside, we were there for probably like 10 minutes outside talking. I told them that they should come to the club or come to the club tomorrow when I'm hosting. It's Bust Down Friday. So it's a night that is not specifically for drag. I'm just the only drag queen there. Walking around. It was a good conversation. We ended the night. They come back the next day. When they come back the next day, I do see them. I say hi. You know, the one in the blue is expressing that he already didn't have a good night. They came from, as mentioned, Club Cafe, already not having a good night. And I told them, I was like, well, you're here now, so just have fun. Come in and have fun. It's no big deal. They come in. We had a performer that night, and so it's not a VIP section exactly, because I think that is a different connotation. We had the stage blocked off for the performer and for the performers, I guess, like video crew and posse, whatever. So while we are up on the stage, the performer ended, we're up on the stage, they're probably like wrapping up so they can get down, is when this member, one of them in the blue, he comes up on stage. Security comes over to me and says, do you want me to remove him? I said, no, like, let's not make this an issue. I'll get him down. So I come over to him. I say to him, like, hi, yes, this is for the performer. I can't have you up here. But I know you came in with some friends. I didn't get to see them yet. Can you bring me over to them to say hi? As we're coming down, we get a picture taken from the photographer. And you can see it in the picture. We're having a good time. This is a fine moment that we're having. I bring him down to his friends. I leave him with his friends. That's it. So on and so forth. It looks like they're having a good night. The end of the night comes in. I am going upstairs. I wrap up my thing. So yeah, it's probably like 2:30ish at this point. I'm coming upstairs, and one of the members, or one of the patrons of the club, a regular that comes in, she is a trans member, and she's just so upset, distraught. And she's expressing that the men over there were trying to pursue her, and then when she wasn't interested, they started saying very transphobic things. And specifically, and I did say specific comments when the report was first made, they said that, well, she was an ugly man anyway, and that they don't have trannies like her where they're from. So, you know, I heard these things, and I want to clarify to you, I am from New Hampshire, so I am Black, queer, from New Hampshire. I am raised in a sense that I'm obviously surrounded by, like, having to explain myself. So the idea of it offending my better nature, I want to squash that, because I didn't go over there offended. As far as I was concerned, these patrons had a good night. They're also gay men. So gay men does not exclude the fact that you can be transphobic, but at the end of the day, they're part of the community. Why would I assume that they came out here to be malicious? I went over to having a conversation with an adult. And when I went over to have that conversation, the one in the blue was very drunk. He was very drunk. And then his friend there was saying, I came over and I said, hey, and went just like this. I said, hey there. I was like, I heard that I thought we were having a good night. I was like, but, you know, I see that, you know, some of our members are really upset. And I'm trying to understand the situation a little bit more. There were some comments made that offended some people. And so this is something, like, when people make comments, or when there are things that are happening in the club, if I believe that it's going to escalate to a place of a physical fight, I will always go with security. And Terrence is head of security. He can back that up. If there's ever been an issue that I felt like it was going to escalate, security comes with me. What I expected was to have an adult conversation with people that were already being very cordial with me throughout the night. So when I went over there and asked the conversation, the taller friend was like, don't do this, it's going to turn into a fight, The drunk friend, the one in the blue, goes, so is there an issue? Who has an issue? Because I'm here to handle the issues. And I said, honey, I was like, there is no issue. I was like, in any issue, you know, I was like, I'm a host here. I was like, I just want to make sure that we're all having a good time. I was like, there are no issues. That's when this man steps forward to me saying, well, you and that ugly tranny over there, or you ugly tranny and that ugly tranny over there, are a problem. I said, you need to back up. And he got right in my face and literally put his hand up. And when he put his hand up is when I pushed him backwards. And when he put his hand up and pushed him backwards, and you'll see it in that street video, that's when I pushed him back, and then the fight escalated. You know, and I couldn't tell you where it really went from there, because I was just in a position of defending myself against 3 different men. And I'm in high heels. I'm in my dress. I'm in a fur coat. I'm carrying over makeup. You know, so there was no intention of this to escalate to the place that it did. And yeah, and so it did. And from there, it just escalated. You know, there was a lot going on. But overall, that's my statement.
Thank you very much for that, for your testimony. We'll move to questions from the board, if there are any, starting with Chairwoman Joyce.
Can someone explain to me what it means to be a member? Is it different than any patron, all patrons, or any other patron?
Sorry, I say member, but that was just patron. When I say member, I didn't mean just to say patron. There's no extra emphasis on, you know, the status of people coming to the club.
And Rashawn, the what you just described, that happened inside or outside the establishment?
So what I was explaining was a lot of it was inside, but where it de-escalated, or where it escalated at least, it was outside. Like I said, we were having a very cordial night up until this point.
Okay, and Mr. Lozano is the bouncer? That's correct?
Yes.
Was he disciplined at all? What happened with him?
Okay, so our security door guy, he was suspended until the outcome of all the court cases, because I can't take a chance one way or the other. I'm not gonna, play judge and jury with it all, but I have to keep the public safety at heart one way or the other. So our policy is any involvement in anything like that, we have to suspend people until further notice. So he hasn't been working at all.
Okay, how long did he work for you?
I've had him here for 2 years at this particular club. I've worked with him with other organizations, including Big Night Entertainment Group. And he's actually always been an excellent employee.
Okay.
And just for the record, to clarify a little bit more, when she said that some of that happened inside the club, she meant the part where they were all having a good time. That happened inside the club. Everything that she was talking about that happened outside the club is when it got negative, when she went over and spoke to him, because we were closed at that point at 2:30.
Okay, so just to go back to my other question, Mr. Lozano is suspended pending the court cases related to this incident?
Yes,
Okay,
I can't have him.
and then you did have videos at the establishment that night, correct? That you stated that were erased?
No, well, all video that we have, I turned over to the detective.
Okay. So you preserved videos from this night?
Yes, not only did we do that, but I also, upon my investigation, found private video from people's phones and everything else and questioning people. And I gathered that together and turned it over to the officers.
Okay. Thank you very much. Commissioner Curran, do you have any questions?
I do. And this question could be for the police or the premises, but so what investigation was done regarding the threat of knife violence?
Commissioner, we spoke to almost every party that was listed in the police report. I viewed the cell phone footage, the footage Mr. Gathers provided from the club. And then we also had Homeland Security footage on Warrenton Street. After viewing all that and speaking with everyone who was cooperative, Mr. Gathers was cooperative, Mr. Lozano was cooperative, Arabella was cooperative with me as well. We spoke several times. We charged them what I feel is appropriately. I don't think there was a knife recovered on scene. On the video, you can't tell if anyone's holding a knife or brandishing a knife. So we didn't charge him with that. Davis.
And even the verbal threat wasn't corroborated?
With the people I spoke to, the person who stated there was a knife involved was Mr. Lozano.
Yeah.
The only one I spoke.
That's what I'm getting.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna, oh yeah, go ahead.
Got one question. Did any detective, do you know if any of the police searched the area that the gentleman that was accused of having a knife, when he got up and ran, did they search the area to see if anything was thrown to the left or the right or anything along those lines?
I reviewed a lot of body worn camera footage. I think there was 10 or 12 officers and a supervisor who responded. In my review, I didn't see any knife recovered or any indication that Davis was found holding a knife or anything of that nature. On the video, he's laying on the ground for a few minutes. I'm not sure approximately how long it was before he even got up and moved. So.
No, I think you misunderstood my question. I'm saying, did any police officers, after he had got up and ran around the corner and went down the street, because he went a whole block, did anyone look to the left or the right to see if there was any knife found? Did anyone do a follow-up, to go and see if anything was out there? Because anything
Okay.
could cost.
I can't answer definitively one way or the other.
Okay.
Mr. Gathers, Lozano only says that, there was a threat of a knife. He didn't say he saw one. Did any of your staff say they saw a knife?
No, but in the process of my investigation, several of the customers and people like that, they said that they heard the threat of a knife, but no one said that they seen.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting. So
Yes.
I think we're all on the same page. Thank you.
I'm just curious about the drinking. I mean, I know, that's exactly what these establishments are for, but do you know how much these patrons were drinking? Do you have any record?
I spoke to, I'm sorry.
And just to kind of make a comment, maybe just to check with your policies, just to make sure you're not over serving.
I personally stand at the door to watch people coming home. Leaving the club. And when I mean the door, I'm talking about at the bottom level of the club when they walk out. I'm looking for, I'm also, before I did this, I'm also a drug and anger management facilitator. I'm looking for signs that you may not be able to, get home or whatever. As the detective may be able to tell you, the police are well aware of me calling 911. I'll get an ambulance in a heartbeat if I don't believe that you are capable of getting home. Unfortunately, that night, we also have a lot of people that are not allowed in the club. People pull up, on the streets. So when they made the comment about a bunch of intoxicated people outside on Warrington Street, as people are waiting for, Ubers and stuff like that, one of the things that, has always been a problem since we stopped blocking off that street, at the end of the night, is police used to block it off, then we didn't have too much of this problem. But now people come up that didn't get in the club or can't get in the club and everything. And, between us and all the way down the venue, you got a lot of people who just weren't in and everything else. But to answer your question, they had approximately 2 drinks apiece, between 1 and 2, because they didn't all have. And they came in at approximately between 11:30 and 12.
Anything further from the board? I will make sure that any video received is shared with all the commissioners. And with that, the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 4, Endeavor Hospitality Group LLC, doing business as Warehouse Bar and Grill located at 40 Broad Street. Stated the incident February 18th, 2023. Patron on employee assault and battery in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Cliff Dever, representing myself, owner of Warehouse Bar and Grill.
Great, thank you, Mr. Dever. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective John Keneally from District A1.
Thank you, Detective Keneally. Is it possible to turn your camera on so we can swear you in?
Okay.
Just asked you to start video. Something should have popped up on your screen. There we go. Great. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Yes, I am right here. Frank Scott.
Thank you for being with us, Mr. Scott. And same question for you. Is it possible to turn your camera on so that we can?
How do I do that?
Hang on one second. I've just asked you to start video as well. Something should have popped up on your
Start
screen.
video. Got it.
Here we go.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals who wish to testify on this incident this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Detective Keneally, it looks like your video may have frozen. Are you still with us? There we go.
All right.
Thank you. Detective Keneally, can you please raise your right hand? Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. And if you could please proceed with reading the police report into the record.
Okay, about 4:47 PM on Saturday, 2/18/2023. Officers Hill Tunin and Marchant assigned to the Alpha 102 Frank responded to a radio call for a disturbance at Warehouse Bar and Grill at 40 Broad Street, downtown Boston. Upon arrival, officers met with caller Frank Scott, who stated that he was accosted inside the restaurant. Scott went on to explain that he came from Linfield, Mass. To watch the Villanova basketball game as part of a watch party. Scott stated that he was about to order when he observed an employee, later identified as Donald Bland, wearing a Boston Bruins hockey jersey. At that time, Scott told officers that he commented to Bland, "I admire you. You don't normally see a lot of people of color wearing a Bruins jersey." Scott then stated that a verbal argument erupted in which he was grabbed by owner of the restaurant and forced to leave. At that point, he called 911. While speaking with Scott, officers observed Scott began yelling and erratically pacing about the sidewalk, to which officers had to ask Scott to remain calm multiple times. Officers spoke with the owner, Cliff Dever, who stated that Scott came into the restaurant and made a racial comment towards his general manager, Donald Bland. After the comment was made, Dever stated that an argument ensued in which Scott was erratically screaming at Bland. At this point, Dever noticed patrons inside the restaurant began to stare at the situation and feel uncomfortable by the argument taking place. Dever then informed officers that he asked Scott multiple times over the course of 10 minutes to leave the restaurant. During that time frame, Scott refused to leave. At that time, Dever informed officers that he grabbed Scott by the jacket and escorted him to the exit. Officers then also spoke to Donald Bland, who stated that Scott was at the bar when Scott made a racial comment along the lines of, "We don't see a lot of your kind around here wearing Bruins jerseys." Bland stated to officers that the comment made him and other patrons inside the restaurant uncomfortable. After the comment was made, Bland stated that he got into an argument with Scott, in which Scott refused to leave. Bland stated that Dever came over and escorted Scott off the premise. At that time, officers collected information from all parties on scene. Scott went on to explain to officers that he made the comment based off an article he read from the Boston Globe depicting the different demographics of the fan base among the Boston Bruins fans and Celtics fans. Officers asked Scott if he needed to be seen by EMS, in which he declined. Scott informed officers that he was going to go back to his home in Linfield for the remainder of the evening. Patrol supervisor notified for future code 35 to be conducted. Body worn cameras activated. That's it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Dever, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, I would. Obviously, this is an unfortunate incident for us. We do have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to racially motivated comments. My general manager was offended, and I felt like I needed to remove the guest that offended him. I tried for 10 minutes to explain to Mr. Scott that what he said was offensive. Mr. Scott did not think it was offensive. And, it was kind of just Mr. Scott trying to justify his comments. Like I said, we have a zero tolerance policy. I was on my way out. It was on a shift change. Donald had just got there. And so I didn't feel comfortable having Mr. Scott stay at the bar. We had a argument for about 10 minutes. I tried to be calm. It was a difficult conversation. We had 100 people in the bar watching a basketball game. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I've done this for 10 years. I own and operate the restaurant. I've never had a violation. I'm pretty good at diffusing situations. I did say some things that might have not helped the situation in retrospect. But you know, in terms of the police report, I went down to A1 and spoke with Detective McDonald trying to get a supplement because my statement to the responding officer was that I grabbed Mr. Scott's jacket off the back of his chair and walked it to the front door. I never grabbed him by the jacket. He wasn't wearing his jacket. His jacket was on his chair. I took it off his chair after he called 911 and he followed me out to the front. There was never any, I put my hand on his shoulder one time and asked him if he would want to go watch his basketball game at a different bar. I tried my best to diffuse the situation. He wanted to apologize to Donald. Donald didn't want an apology. At that point, we just wanted him to leave, and that was it.
Thank you, Mr. Dever. Chairman Joyce, do you have questions for the licensee, or would you like to hear from Mr. Scott first?
My only question is there video of any of this?
So, you know, when 911 is called, I should automatically say video. Unfortunately, when we got the violation, we had already had video taped over. We've since upgraded our camera system. Honestly, I didn't even realize that our cameras got recorded over after 14 days. You know, we've never had to provide video to Boston Police for anything. So I've never really, so yeah. So long story short, we don't have video, unfortunately.
Thank you.
I did, not to interrupt, I did send several witness statements and had some people.
Yes, we did receive those, yeah.
Those have been received and shared with the board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dever.
I'm ready to move on to Mr. Scott, but I don't know if the other commissioners have any questions.
No. Thank you. Mr. Scott, is there any additional testimony you would like to provide to the board about the incident?
Yes, yes, I do. And
Thank you. You may proceed.
I'm listening very intently about the information that's being shared right now. I'm a little bit confused about some of that information and some of the people that with some of the claims, so I may ask some for clarifying information. But from what I heard, there were some intentional falsehoods that were just stated from what I could tell. Context is correct. I was there for a Villanova alumni event that was advertised by the Villanova Alumni Group. For context, my wife had just passed away on Thanksgiving Day, and I was still involved with all the arrangements that occur after you lose a spouse. And I came, I haven't attended many Villanova alumni events in the past, but I came in order to engage in some social interaction since I'm a Villanova basketball fan, something that would be colleagues, so to speak. Even though I don't know anybody in particular, I was hoping to meet people there. I arrived at the scene on that afternoon, January 29th. It was actually, the game was at noon. It was midday. And when I entered, the bar was quite crowded, and there was a section roped off at one end of the bar. I asked whether that was the Villanova event, and I was informed, no, it was a fundraiser that was going on, and not related to Villanova at all. So I had asked the people at the door when I came in, I asked the bartender, I asked patrons, anybody aware of anybody from Villanova here to watch this game watch? And it turns out there were none. In fact, post after this event, I was in contact with the Villanova alumni group regarding the incident and what had occurred to me for this quote official Villanova alumni event. And they acknowledged that even the organizers of this event did not even bother to show. So I was literally alone. There was nobody there from Villanova to, verify or, support the information that I'm sharing with you. I was alone. So, my statement to the officers is absolutely correct. There was an article in the Boston Globe, literally just days before, front page. And the intent of the article was to demonstrate that the fan bases for Celtics games and Bruins games did not seem to overlap at all, seemed to be totally separate. And it was a long article, and it involved many interviews with both patrons of Celtics games and Bruins games. And they verified, yes, in fact, they don't go to the other event. That it seemed like the article is accurate, that there was very little overlap of those that go to the Garden for Celtics and Bruins games. And it was noted very specifically that one of the distinct features of Bruins games is very few people of color in the venue. It was noted repeatedly. And versus Celtics games, there's a good turnout of people of color to those venues. So it seemed like, it wasn't really trying to portray a racist element to it. It was just an observation that, in fact, the fan bases appeared to be different, at least those that attend the games. So I entered the bar. I order a beer. And by the time I was thrown out by the owner, I had only had one sip of beer. So I was not intoxicated. I had literally one sip of the beer before it was
Mr.
removed.
Scott,
Yeah.
can we fast forward to the point?
Okay, yes, I will. I'm just trying to highlight how isolated I was. So I saw the patron, and is the African-American employee Mr. Bland? Is that, did I get that correct?
Yes, Donald Bland, he's our general
Donald
manager.
Bland, okay. So I see him in a Bruins jersey, and I'm a Bruins fan. And I said, I was giving him a compliment, and the quote to the officer is exactly as I stated. I admire you. I said that. I admire you. You do not see many people of color wearing Bruins jerseys. I tried to be respectful. I was kind. It was purely offered as a compliment to him. So for being a proud Bruins fan, that isn't a.
That point is taken. I wanted to ask you about.
So here, it was alleged that an argument ensued between me and Mr. Bland. In fact, that is completely false. That is a falsehood. I never said one additional word than what I just told you.
I can agree with you, Mr. Scott, on that. And I've asked.
I don't know where it was that I engaged in an argument with Mr. Bland, but it is completely false. Not one additional word. Not one.
I agree with you, Mr. Scott. You did not. Donald actually walked away into the kitchen and told me what happened, along with the other African-American man he was with.
Yes.
I have a statement from. They were both offended, Mr. Scott, and it's not for you to say what is offensive to somebody or not. And that's what
I'm telling you, it was offered as a compliment.
I'm going to step in as chair of the board and try to focus the conversation here. Mr. Scott, when Mr. Dever asked you to leave, what happened?
Oh, sorry, my phone. Let me just I try to shut this off. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I had to just turn my phone off.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a direct question. When Mr. Dever asked you to leave the bar, what happened?
So I'm sitting at the bar, I'm looking at a menu. I literally had one sip of beer. I'm looking to order food. I get approached by Mr. Dever that says I now have to leave. And I am confused. I have no idea why. I ask him why. Why am I leaving? He says, you issued a racist comment. And now I'm saying, what are you talking about? I offered a compliment. I said, I admire you. I repeated that many times to him, that I said, how do you interpret I admire you as a racially insensitive assault. I would say also that something that seems to be relevant here with all of this. There was another African-American man that was sort of trailing behind as he sort of walked by.
Thank you.
Walked
Thank you
by
very
the
much.
bar.
Mr. Scott, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't have
I'm
any
gonna
other
just say he
questions.
said
I want to
something.
ask Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon if they have any other questions right now.
Oh, but I was assaulted. I was assaulted, physically assaulted. Mr. Dever is wrong. He grabbed me several times. Every single time I said, get your hands off me. You are not allowed to do that. He grabbed me by the elbow. He grabbed me by my forearm several times, 3 or 4 times. Each time I said, get your hands off of me. I would tell you, I did everything in my power to de-escalate this situation. When Mr. Dever says that he tried to do that, he is lying.
Okay, when Mr. Dever asked you to leave, did you leave? When Mr. Dever asked you to leave,
He did everything
can you
possible
mute
to
him?
escalate the
He's not answering my
situation.
questions.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Mr. Scott, the chair is trying to ask you a direct question. right
Okay.
now.
yes,
I'm taking great issue with the fact you're speaking over me.
Okay, I'm sorry. It
One
just-
question, it's a
Yes.
yes or no. When Mr. Dever asked you to leave, did you leave?
He,
Yes or no? Yes or no?
He did not ask me to leave.
Okay.
He said I needed to leave.
Okay, when he said you needed to leave, did you leave?
My response was, what for? What did
Okay,
I do?
thank
That
you.
was my response.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Put him
We'll,
on mute.
yeah,
Thank
we'll
you.
see if there are any
Then
other
he-
questions from the
then he-
commissioners at this time. And
So, yeah, unfortunately, it was very difficult for me to handle the situation. I
Mr.
tried.
Dever, that's fine. We're gonna move on to the other commissioners to see if they have any specific questions that haven't been covered in the testimony up to this point.
thank you, Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
I don't think I have anything additional. Thank you.
No questions at all. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement. Any further testimony can be submitted in writing to licensingboard@boston.gov. And with that, the board will take this matter under advisement until the voting meeting on Thursday morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 5 is being continued due to improper service and will be rescheduled to the next available hearing date. Calling item number 6, CMG 10 PO Square LLC, doing business as Marielle, located at 10 Post Office Square, dated the incident January 28th, 2023. Assault and battery, patron on employee in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A, and assault and battery employee on patron in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Executive Secretary Green, Leslie Delaney Hawkins with the law firm Prince Will Bell. With me today is Joe O'Connor, the manager who is present on the night of the alleged incident, as well as Mark Malatesta, one of the owners and operators.
Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Oh, Sergeant.
Sorry, one more time. I missed that.
Sergeant DePina with the Boston Police Department.
Great, thank you, Sergeant DePina. Are there any other individuals of firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? You all please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you, Sergeant DePina. If you could please proceed with reading the police report into the record.
Sure. About 12:16 a.m. on Saturday, January 28, 2023, Officers Murray and Officer, responded to a radio call for an investigated person removed and Post Office Square. Upon arrival, Murray spoke with Henry Perkins, who is an employee of the above. Perkins stated that he observed a male later identified as Edward Kazachenko, I believe that's how you say his last name, to be intoxicated. Perkins stated he observed Kazachenko barely able to stand, swaying, and to have slurred speech. Perkins stated he attempted to escort him and Kazachenko stuck up his leg in order to prevent him from doing so. Perkins stated that he lifted Kazachenko up and brought him outside of the establishment. Officer Murray then spoke to the nightlife director of the establishment, Joseph O'Connor, who stated once Kazachenko was outside the establishment, he asked him to leave. O'Connor stated that Kazachenko refused. O'Connor stated Kazachenko went up to slap him, and Kazachenko grazed his head. At this state of security and tackled Kazachenko to the when this incident occurred. Officer Murray then spoke to security, Joe Benson, who stated Kazachenko pushed him. Benson reiterated O'Connor's story, and when he observed Kazachenko slap O'Connor, he restrained him on the ground. Officer Casino spoke with Kazachenko, who stated he was mouthing off to the employee of the above, and he ended up on the ground. Kazachenko stated he was restrained and held on the ground. Kazachenko further stated his face was pushed into the ground. Kazachenko had visible redness on his face and forehead area. Kazachenko declined EMS. Officer Murray notified Sergeant Doris, Yankee notified of the future license premise code 35.
Thank you very much, Sergeant. Attorney Hawkins, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Thank you, Executive Secretary. If I may, Sergeant, just a couple of questions. You were not present for the alleged incident, is that correct?
Correct, I was not.
You do not have any personal knowledge of the alleged incident.
Didn't know.
Thank you. And does the license premise inspection report note that the licensee was cooperative?
I conducted the code 35 and the establishment was cooperative.
Thank you. And just for the record, the license premise, the initial inspection also notes that the licensee was cooperative. At Sergeant, you do not have personal knowledge, but just to confirm, the police were called regarding this alleged incident, correct?
Yes.
Those are all the questions I have for you, Sergeant. Thank you very much. Mr. O'Connor,
Yes,
please, again, state your name and your position for the record.
Joe O'Connor, Nightlight Director, Fuji Group.
Thank you. And you were present for the alleged incident?
I was.
Could you please explain to the board in your own words what happened that evening?
It was about right around midnight. I know security officer Perkins had saw some signs of intoxication inside Mariel Underground. He had asked the guests to leave. He was at first cooperative. They were walking up the steps, himself and another security officer. And when they got to the door, I think the guests kind of realized what was going on and became combative. At that point, they both lifted up one arm and one leg, and kind of just gently carried him out to the front door and kind of put him outside the waiting area. That's where I had been. At that point, the guest was extremely mouthy, combative. He was making a scene outside. And that's when I called 911. I said, called them, just said non-emergency, but we do have a guest who's quite combative outside. That carried on. And we asked a few times, had a couple different guys kind of check in and kind of ask them softly to head down the street or take off for the night. And that's at one point when he swung at me. So at that point, we had two security guards who restrained him. And that's when I called 911 again, to let them know at this point we did need somebody there. And they arrived, and we had let him go because he had calmed down and he had walked up the street. Police arrived. They kind of just took statements from myself, security officers, and the guest. That's where we left it.
Mr. O'Connor, just because you're cutting in a little bit, just to be clear, so you called 911 twice. Once when he initially was becoming slightly combative, and then again when he became physical.
That's correct.
And prior to removing this patron from the establishment, was there anything to signal that he had the potential to become physically combative or anything of that nature?
No, not at all.
And was he known to you?
Unknown male. We had asked for identification, but he refused to give.
And you did take identification when he was entering the establishment, but after the incident, he refused to give you his identification.
Yeah, everyone is identified on their way in. But when he had become combative, we had asked for identification to write a report, and he did not want to provide it.
And to your knowledge, have any criminal charges been filed regarding this alleged incident?
Not that I'm aware of. He actually called the restaurant and I spoke to him. I think it was a few days later and he apologized. He said he had a lot going on in his life. And that was how we left off.
And this was a Friday evening going into a Saturday early morning, correct?
That's correct.
And were you fully staffed with security personnel?
For sure. There's about 14 or 15 security and door guys on. 3 managers.
Would you say that your staff de-escalated the situation in accordance with all of your policies?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm traveling. No, we were fully staffed and I think we were in control. I think the guest was just unruly.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, we respectfully submit that the licensee did exactly what they should do. They identified a patron that they felt was showing signs of intoxication. They attempted to remove him when he became combative. They made the initial call to police. When he became physical, they made the second call to police and did what they could to de-escalate the situation while cooperating with the police. Obviously, we never want to be here, but we do submit that in this instance. We think that everyone followed the protocols we have in place if there is ever a problem patron, and we're happy to answer any additional questions.
Thank you, Attorney Hawkins. Chairman Joyce, any questions?
My only question is, do you have any record of how long this patron was at the establishment or how many drinks he was served?
Mr.
We looked up the patron. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. We did look up the patron's name once we did get the report. There was no credit card record or reservation record. So very hard to tell if he was served or not. If he did, he must have paid cash.
And the incident in the Mariel Underground, the police responded at 12:16 a.m. Mr. O'Connor, at what time does Mariel Underground begin to actually take patrons in on a Friday night?
10 p.m. for Nyla.
And we have no record of him being upstairs prior to that.
There's no reservation in his name now.
Thank you.
Commissioner Carmen, Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
None from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Very much.
Calling item number 7, Paris Entertainment Inc. doing business as Kaze Shabu Shabu located at 1 Harrison Ave, dated the incident February 7th, 2023. Assault battery employee on patron in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
I don't think Albert is here because he is in China, and then he cannot access the internet to American. So he was text me. I'm the manager of Aiden.
Okay, and you are the manager?
Yes, I'm the manager.
Okay, thank you very much. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant DePina.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Thank you. Can you both please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Sergeant DePina, if you could please read the police report into the record for us.
Sure. So, about 1:40 a.m. on Monday, February 7th, 2023, Officer Murray and Officer McCombs responded to a radio call for a larceny in progress at 1 Harrison Avenue, Kaze Shabu Shabu, Boston. Upon arrival, the officers were led into the establishment by the staff at the above. The officer separated the staff to involve manager Aiden Pan and the owner, Albert Loon, as well as the patrons, Johnny Smith and Robert Clickley. Smith and Clickley were patrons of the above and tried paying the bill with a card, but it was not working. Smith stated she was trying to cash out money, but was unable to because her phone had died. Clickley stated that he was held down and slapped twice in the face by Lung. Clickley further stated that someone took his phone, but was not able to identify who it was. Pan and Lung stated that Smith and Clickley had only paid $18 $52.60 of 16 cents of the bill from the total of 52.22 cents. Penn showed the officers the two receipts, which the officer observed the $18.16 that was paid and the total bill being $52.22, leaving $34.06 unpaid. Penn also pointed out a cell phone that was on the counter behind him, which was later identified as Kirklees. Penn stated he was not sure who had put the cell phone on the counter, but that Kirkley had dropped it and no one had taken his phone, but had just put it on the counter after he had dropped it. Both Penn and Lung declined any physical confrontation happened. The officers observed the camera in the establishment and advised the staff to save the footage. All parties agreed to return the next day and pay the remaining amount of the bill.
Thank you very much, Sergeant. Mr. Pan, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Everything is what he said. Yes, it's correct.
Is there anything further you would like to say to the board before we turn it over for questions?
No.
Chairwoman Joyce, do you have any questions for the licensee or for the sergeant? Oh, you're on mute right now.
So Mr. Pan, you would agree that that Mr. Leung held down the patron and slapped him twice?
No, actually he say the owner, Mr. Leung, was slapped and twice is not true because when I was there, I was watching the whole time. And then I was end of the table, talk to the customer, and then I heard an argument. They was, argue about someone grab his phone, but when I came over and then no one take his phone, and now the police came, the phone was on the counter. I think it's someone pick it up, leave it in the counter, but I didn't see any was, fight or slap. They just don't refuse they to leave because they didn't pay the bill.
Okay, and okay, I don't really feel like I can ask Mr. Leung questions because he's not here. Commissioner Curran, do you have any questions, or Commissioner Saxon?
Mr. Pan, did the patrons return and settle up the rest of the bill?
No, they didn't come back, pay the bill.
Okay, and did you save the video like you're advised to that night?
We don't have any videos because I'm was part-time manager there, so I don't know what happened to the camera assistant, and I don't know if it's the ankle problem. I have to ask the owner because they set out the camera.
What was that last bit? What about
Because I'm the part-time manager there. I didn't know the ankle about the camera things, but they say the camera they cannot see it. They have no camera, no video.
Okay, the officers observed cameras in the establishment. Are there cameras?
Oh, you mean his phone or?
The report says that there's cameras in the establishment. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so why isn't there video of this incident preserved?
I'm not sure because I don't have the access to see the cameras.
Okay, would Mr. Leung have it?
He's in China right now, so I believe he can see it. But that camera, I think they checked, they said they didn't see anything.
Okay, that's all I have.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Anything further from the board?
Nothing further.
Board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you. Calling item number 8, South Diner LLP, doing business as South Street Diner, located at 178 Neeland Street. Date of the incident, February 26th, 2023. Employee on patron, assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, a pepper spray, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 15A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, members of the board. Carolyn Conway on behalf of the licensee. I have with me today Mr. Saul Seidel, who is the owner manager and was also present that night, and also is Mr. William Pizzulo, who is from Minuteman Security.
Thank you very much. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Lieutenant Detective Troy, neither Officer Murray nor Detective McDonough are available.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Now, please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Lieutenant Troy, if you could please proceed reading the police police report into the record.
Reading from a report, rather lengthy report by Officer Murray, written on February 26, 2023, and it reads as follows. At about 2:22 a.m. on Sunday, February 26, 2023, Officer Murray and Grady responded to a radio call for a disturbance at 178 Nealon Street, the South Sea Diner. Also responding was Sergeant Whiteman. On arrival, the officer spoke with Mr. Gallimore, who works at the South Sea Diner. Mr. Gallimore stated a male later identified as Mr. DeSoto was trying to charge at him and was swinging at him. DeSoto was attempting to get past Gallimore and inside the establishment. Gallimore said that he was in the vestibule of the above and that the door was closed, preventing him from being able to go anywhere. Gallimore said that DeSoto was being held back by his girlfriend, identified as Miss Benders. Gallimore said that DeSoto was mid-swinging and that he deployed his pepper spray, which struck both Gallimore and Benders. Gallimore said that he gave DeSoto multiple warnings that he was going to pepper spray him and not to get close to him. Gallimore told DeSoto this 4 times, but he kept charging him after he said this. When the officer asked if he felt threatened by DeSoto, Mr. Gallimore said that he had. Officer Murray then spoke to Miss Benders, who was visibly upset and said she had been pepper sprayed in the face because Gallimore was arguing with her boyfriend, Mr. DeSoto. The officer observed Benders' eyes to be wet and appeared to be irritated. Miss Benders said that she sent DeSoto to get a spot in line from the car, and she observed DeSoto and Gallimore talking back and forth. Bender said that she did not know what they were saying, but she observed Gallimore push DeSoto. Miss Bender said that this caused her to get out of the car and go to get DeSoto. Bender said she and DeSoto were then maced by Mr. Gallimore. The officer inquired if Gallimore said anything before he pepper sprayed them, and she said no. Just that DeSoto was calling Gallimore quote, bitch, and that he was laughing. Officer Murray provided Benders with the incident number and advised that she could obtain a copy of the report. EMS were requested and responded. Both parties were evaluated and declined further medical treatment. Ms. Bender said that she felt safe to drive home and she and DeSoto were released from the scene. Officers then spoke to Mr. DeCoto, who said that he was choked, pushed, and pepper sprayed by Ms. Gallimore. DeCoto said that he didn't observe the line and was questioned why he could not go into the establishment. DeCoto said that he was joking around, and that's when Mr. Gallimore put his hand around his neck. DeCoto and Benders then approached them to calm the situation down. That's when Gallimore pulled out his pepper spray and sprayed both of them. DeCoto said that both him and Miss Benders then walked away. Officer Grady spoke with the owner of the above, who was also on scene, Solomon Seidel, who corroborated Mr. Gallimore's recollection of events. Additionally, Seidel said the incident went on for about 10 minutes. Seidel said Benders had to hold back DeCoto when DeCoto swung at Mr. Gallimore, and that's when he pepper sprayed them. Seidel also showed Officer Grady camera footage of the incident, which was recorded on Officer Grady's phone and emailed to him. Seidel was advised to save the camera footage. Officer Murray spoke to Mr. Wellesley Yacine, who also works for the above and was also outside when the incident occurred. Yacine said that DeCoto was acting belligerently, was told to back up, so as he was trying to get in the door. Yassine said Gallimore then told him that he was going to pepper spray him and said this about 4 times. At this point, Yassine and Benders came to get Dakota and tried to get him back in the car. Dakota was not receptive to this and said, I should go get my 40, and you don't want to get hit with the 40, which Yassine interpreted that he was going to get a firearm out of his car. Both Yassine and Gallimore said Dakota kept saying this. Neither Yassine nor Gallimore saw a firearm. Yassine provided information about the firearm after Dakota was released from the scene. Additionally, it should be noted that officers know Gallimore carries a firearm while working at the above. Gallimore possesses a valid license to carry, which is issued out of Boston and expires on 4/27/2024. Gallimore had his license on his person and provided it to the officer. The officer also observed Gallimore to be carrying a firearm, which was in a holster on his left hip. Gallimore assured officers that at no point during the incident did he take out his firearm. Gallimore also provided officers with the pepper spray that he used, which was labeled Gall's 10% pepper MK-3 stream, which was logged in as evidence in the control book. Gallimore said he was provided the pepper spray by his company. For backgrounds, the general license and rules of the City of Boston states under 1.07 business arrangement licensees who hold alcoholic beverage license are further restricted to the following: any licensee hiring armed guards as security personnel for the licensed premise during business hours must notify the board before doing so. Notification must include the names of each armed individual, except this does not apply to the hiring of any sworn police officers from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Officers and Sergeant Whiteman spoke to Seidel further about having armed security guards, and if he had spoken to the city about it. Seidel said that they don't really work as security, but they work as crowd control and hosts. Seidel further stated that they take the names of every person in line to make sure that they stay off the street because the neighboring building is residential. Seidel stated the goal of these employees is for crowd control and hosts. Seidel was advised that when having someone work for him or on his premise that is armed, he must be registered with the city. Seidel stated that they are employed out of Minuteman Security Incorporated and believed that the business had handled that with the city. Seidel said they rarely go into the establishment, only if they have someone to be removed or trespassed. Both of the workers were dressed in dark clothing and did not have any visible identifying markings in what capacity they were working in. Yassine and Gallimore were both wearing dark winter jackets, but did show officers their Minuteman security sweatshirt that they had underneath their jackets. Yassine and Gallimore were advised that to have some identifying security marker visible to patrons going forward. Sergeant Whiteman issued a licensed premise inspection notice for employee patron ABDW, assault and battery, dangerous weapon, pepper spray, which is accepted by the owner, Solomon Seidel. That's the extent of the incident report.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Troy. Attorney Conway, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Well, yes, please. May I just ask the Lieutenant Detective Troy, does the license premise violation indicate that the management was cooperative with the responding officers?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. For a little bit of background for the board, because it's been quite some time since we've been here. As you know, this is a 24-hour establishment, and after 2:30 in the morning, it becomes pretty busy with people leaving other establishments, coming to get food, mostly takeout, on their way home. As a result, the licensee in this case has hired Minuteman Security to really hold the lines out in front. We have 2 lines, or actually 3. One is to actually get into the licensed premises after hours. It has a very pretty small capacity. And the second line is for those people who are waiting for just to go items. We also have a separate little area for Uber Eats and DoorDash. And the duties of the Minuteman Security are to take first off, the names of the DoorDash, all of that, they go in and get it. They make sure that there are, for the line to get into the licensed premises, no one who appears intoxicated is allowed in after 2 o'clock in the morning, and they make that determination. If somebody appears to be intoxicated, they are told that they can stay in the to-go line, but they will not be getting, they will not be getting in.
Attorney Conway, can I just jump in?
Sure.
I understand the business plan here, but I want to direct your attention to the armed security and the rules that they have to notify us.
Yes, this is.
It's not anything that's prohibited.
No, but our understanding is that because the Minuteman Security, we do not have the same people coming every night to act on behalf of the licensee. They misunderstood and thought
Okay,
that.
who pays for Minuteman Security? Is it Mr. Seidel? Ultimately, he's responsible.
He paid, yes, we're not denying that we're ultimately responsible, but there was a mix-up as to.
How long has Minuteman Security worked here or had a contract with this place?
Mr. Seidel, do you want to answer? It's more than several years. I know he's on.
Minuteman Security currently has been with me 2 years, and prior to that, prior to COVID, they worked for me 10 years ago for about 5 years.
Okay, Mr. Seidel, do you understand that you are allowed to have armed security?
Again, it goes by my insurance more than my licensing. My issue was that we don't know who's going to be our security on every night.
If you have armed security, you need to tell the board. I don't care
Make
about
sure that we do that in
insurance.
the future.
Yeah, well, what we've done, since this has happened, we've gone to Minuteman Security. We now have, they have contracted with us that we will not have any security that has any kind of, they're not allowed on the premises anymore. And that pepper spray, guns, anything is not allowed until we work out if we are going to go back and notify the board.
Do you understand that when the police are called for any sort of incident at a licensed premise, they're putting their life at risk, and they need to know when they arrive whether someone has a gun or pepper spray? It seems that the police officers did know that this person had a license to carry, but they need to know what they're getting into when they show up at
Absolutely. And I do want to point out to the board that we were the ones who called the police in this.
It doesn't matter. The police are putting themselves in harm's way every time a call comes in from a licensed premise, whether it's for an assault or whether it's for a disturbance outside. They need to know, we need to know. It's allowed.
Absolutely.
We're figure it out with your insurance. If it's something that they don't allow, that's up to you, but we need to know. The police can't be showing up to respond to a call, whether it's from you or someone else, and not know what they're getting into. They need to know exactly who has a gun. And they need to know exactly who.
Yes, and I do have video of this so that I will submit to the board so that you can see exactly what happened here. And you can see the belligerence of the person here. But getting back to what we're saying, as I said, we're working with Minuteman Security. As of right now, there's nothing there, and we will not be doing anything until I've notified the board because we're working with it because the regulation says that we have to give you names, and we would want to be able to give you names with license numbers, everything for weapons, and we're working on that. But right now, we're telling you that it's not occurring at the licensed premises. If it was stopped after this license violation was issued, and it has not been the case since then. So we do take it very seriously, and you will be hearing us from the licensee. And as I said, I will submit the video to you. We're very aware that we need to be able to that the officers are working with us and we have to be making sure that we're doing everything that we can for them as well.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. I don't, Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, do you?
When were the police called during the incident? Because it says that it went on for a while.
The police are, you could see that the, somebody going into the licensed premises, it's right around the time you can see the man's girlfriend holding him back. And then all of a sudden she kind of lets him go. And that's right at that, you'll see somebody go in and that's when the police were called. So they were,
You're describing the video.
yes. Yeah, and I think you'll see it from the, the video is not that long and you'll see it from the video.
Okay, so
When people, when
someone alleges this goes on for 10 minutes, is that not correct?
the video's not that long.
Yeah.
I think people have different perceptions of time.
Yep.
Because as far as I could tell, this video looks like it's about 3 or 4 minutes long, and it starts right at the beginning and it goes right until the end. So it's about that long.
All right, I'll wait for the video. Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll make sure that you get the video today. And
Thank you.
so
I'll make
you'll
sure
be
that
able
is-
to see it. We're happy to share it.
Thank you, Attorney Conway. I'll make sure that's shared with all of the commissioners. And
Thank you.
With that, the board will take this matter under advisement. And the board will also take a quick 5-minute break before we hear the next item on the agenda, number 9. So we'll be back here. It is now 12:02. We will resume at 12:07 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience. We are now going to resume with item number 9, calling LCY Inc. doing business as Jade Garden Restaurant located at 18 to 20 Tyler Street. Date of the incident, February 16th, 2023. Patron on patron assault and battery in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Hi, my name is Peter. Last name is Cal, CAO. I'm the manager at Jade Garden Restaurant.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you for being with us. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Hi, my name is Daniel Roca.
Detective John McDonald.
Thank you very much. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. And who will be reading the police report into the record?
I'll be reading it.
Great, thank you. You may proceed.
About 2 a.m. on Thursday, February 16, 2023, Officer Roca and Officer Norwood responded to a radio call for an assault in progress at 20 Tyler Street in Boston. On arrival, the officer spoke with Mr. Chen inside the restaurant, who reported that he was just involved in a physical altercation. He stated that about 2 hours prior, he and Mr. Zhang had a verbal argument at a party. After leaving the party, the argument continued via text. The suspect followed the victim, Zhang followed the victim, Mr. Chen, to the restaurant to confront him. The altercation escalated into a violent physical altercation between the two parties. The victim claimed that he was punched in the nose and also on his left ear, while the suspect stated he was punched in the back of the head. The victim declined any medical assistance at this point. Boston EMS arrived and evaluated the suspect, providing him a couple of ice packs to treat his injuries. He declined hospital transport. That's it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cow, would you like to address the alleged incident?
No, whatever Detective Barossa mentioned was correct, and the incident that happened, that the night shift staff, our waiters, will try to calm down the situation, and one of the couple of the staff tried to hold one person down, not to get involved, and then one of the waiter staff will try to get in the middle, try to stop the both party, get between the both party, and try to calm down the situation, and somehow he's overpowered because he tried to do his best to control the situation, but it just got overpowered by the two arguments, the two parties of the arguments. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything further you'd like to add, or shall we move to questions? Thank you. We'll move to questions from the board. Chairwoman Joyce, any questions?
Sir, can you tell me how long this party was at your restaurant?
Before that, I would say about 30 minutes, roughly.
And do you remember what they were served or what happened? Do you have any more information about what led up to the physical altercation?
We just served them food, and I mean, our staff didn't know what happened, and like the police report said that they have an argument before they even come into the restaurant. So we have no clue about that.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
No questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Calling item number 10, SZA LLC, doing business as Shabu Zen, located at 78 to 80 Brighton Ave in Albany. Date of the incident, December 1st, 2022. Persons under 21 in possession of alcohol on premise in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 34A, 34C, and 64 to 64A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
I'm Ken. I'm the manager of Shabu Zen.
Thank you, Mr. Cheng. Is it possible to turn your camera on so that we can swear you in?
Yep.
Thank you. I've just asked you to start video. Something should have popped up on your screen. Here we go. Thank you very much. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
I am Detective Hernandez.
Thank you, Detective Hernandez. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this afternoon?
Detective William Gallagher, if need be.
Thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Detective Hernandez, if you could please read the police report into the record.
Good afternoon. I'll be reading from a report which I wrote on Thursday, December 1st, 2022. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez signed to the BPD license premise unit, conducted a license premise inspection of Shabu Zen restaurant located at 78 Brighton Avenue, Boston. Upon reviewing the licenses and permits of the establishment, detectives observed that there was no current inspectional services department certificate posted. There was an expired one for 3/7 of 2022. No current City of Boston entertainment license. The last one there was from 21, and no current Boston Fire Place of Assembly permit posted. The last one there was from 9/30 of 22. As detectives were walking through the establishment, they observed two young-looking patrons drinking alcoholic beverages. Detectives asked them to produce identification to confirm their ages. Both patrons immediately stated they were under 21 years of age and provided detectives with their license and passport. Both parties later identified as Kishnapa Kush and Tessie Parane, then provided the detectives with their driver's license, which contained their correct names, but displayed a date of birth, made appear that they were over 21 years of age. Detectives used a license verification program which confirmed that the driver's licenses were indeed fraudulent. The fraudulent driver's license were confiscated by detectives. It should be noted that both patrons stated that staff did not ask them for identification. The manager, Yan Mai, was able to confirm that the waiter did scan the licenses and that their license identification scanner stated that the licenses were valid. It was confirmed by detectives that the establishment scanner incorrectly scanned the licenses as valid. Both individuals.
No, please.
Both individuals will be summoned into court for persons under 21 possession of alcohol and possession of fraudulent identification. Mr. Mai was unable to provide detectives with any of the current licenses, permits, or certificates. As a result of what detectives observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice 059959 for expired ISD certificate posted, expired City of Boston entertainment license posted, expired BFD Place of Assembly posted, and persons under 21 in possession of alcohol. Mr. Mai signed from accepted notice. That's all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cheng, would you like to address the alleged incident?
So our restaurant located at 80 Brighton Avenue, which is in the school district. this BU and BC next to our areas. So we have a lot of young students coming to dining, to eat, to drink. So which we always check their IDs. So so we bought ID scammer to scan their IDs, make sure the age, so 21 or 21 to be illegal to drink. So, but that ID scammer, it couldn't identify fake ID so well. So, but we also checked and scanned the IDs, but maybe we couldn't tell because it's real or fake. So that was why the inspector came the night, and they scanned their IDs, which was they held a fake IDs, which we didn't know. So that after I came up to this inspector to ask them or like ask them for recommendation or suggestion for which like app they were using, so I can install it on my restaurant iPad to avoid this kind of situation happening again. So which I did, and I sent the email to the company the next day, and they got back to me next week, and then I purchased the apps on December 7th. So yes, which $1,000 a year, $1 per scan. So I believe this kind of situation won't happen in the future anymore.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. We're going to move on to questions from the board. Start with Chairwoman Joyce. Any questions?
Detective, do you recall if these were Massachusetts or out-of-state IDs?
Ma'am, I don't have those in front of me. I apologize.
Okay, no problem. I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Maybe just more in the way of comment regarding the scanner. I think it's a good step that you've gotten the scanner recommended by the Boston Police, but ultimately it's your responsibility to confirm the validity of the IDs. So I just want to call that to your attention. You can't have 100% reliance on any scanner. You know, you can always refuse service if they look too young and you have any doubts. And also, you only have extra protection under the statute for Massachusetts IDs, passports, military IDs. So if you're going to accept other IDs, you're taking an extra risk. So I just want to advise you of that. Okay, thank you.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement as well. Calling item number 11, Statiras Group LLC, doing business as Stats Bar and Grill, located at 77 Dorchester Street in South Boston. Date of the incident, January 14th, 2023. Overcrowding, 202 mechanical count, capacity 190, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Boards Rule 1.03J and 1.06A and F. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning again. Attorney Green, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dennis Quilty representing the licensee. With me is James Statiras, who is the manager of record and an owner of the establishment. Good morning, or good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective William Gallagher.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify?
Dr. Hernandez is needed.
Thank you very much. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Sergeant Gallagher, if you could please proceed with the police report.
Yes, good afternoon. On 1/14/2023 at 10:45 p.m. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to licensed premise unit, conducted a licensed premise inspection of Stats, 77 Dorchester Street. As detectives entered the premise, they observed the line of patrons waiting to gain entrance. Detectives asked the doorman as to how many people were inside, and he responded 185. Detectives observed the inside to be quite busy, and it appeared as if the premise had exceeded its occupant load. Detective Hernandez conducted a mechanical count, which resulted in 202 persons being counted. Premise capacity is set at 190. Detectives relayed their findings to the manager, Dan Mahoney, who stated he would bring the premise into compliance. As a result, what was observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice number 060111 to Stats for overcrowding 202 mechanical count, capacity 190. Mr. Mahoney signed for and accepted the notice. Those are the facts.
Thank you very much. Attorney Quilty, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yeah, if I may just ask a brief question or two of the Sergeant Detective. Good afternoon, Detective
sir.
Gallagher. When you arrived, first of all, did the management cooperate with you?
Yes, sir, they did.
Okay, and when you arrived, there was a line outside, is that correct?
Correct.
And would that indicate that there was some checking or, stopping people before going in?
Yes, so it also would mean they're probably at capacity and they weren't letting anyone else in.
Right, correct. And there was a person at the door with a counting device?
Correct, sir.
Okay, and they suggested to you 185?
That's correct.
Okay, did they suggest to you that they normally keep their mechanical count at a number below their capacity?
I do not recall that being relayed to me that evening, sir.
Okay. And you did a count which resulted in approximately 12 persons over their capacity?
Yes, sir, 202.
Yeah, did the establishment, Mr. Mahoney, ask you at one point to ask you to conduct a recount?
I don't believe so, sir.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you very much, Sergeant Detective. I would like to ask Mr. Statiris to answer a few questions, if I might.
Great.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mr. Quilty.
Thank you. Jim, having been sworn, just state your name for the record and your position vis-a-vis the licensee.
Yep, James Statiris, and I am, along with my brother, one of the owners of Stats Bar and Grill in South Boston.
Okay. And are you familiar with the incident that we just referenced in this hearing this morning?
I am.
Okay. And what did you determine with your manager, Mr. Mahoney, with regard to the circumstances?
Sure. I got a call from my manager that night after the detectives came through. It is company policy at Stats. We instruct our managers and our door staff to keep the occupancy at 185, even though we have a 190. We do that just to keep it a couple under, just in case there is somebody that may get past them without counting or whatnot. So the manager on duty, Dan, that night had his count at 185, or the door staff did, as they always do. They were doing one in, one out from that point on, meaning letting a person in when a person leaves, or if two people leave, to let two people in. When the detectives came through and did a count, Dan was surprised that they had it over, because Dan and the door staff were surprised that they had the number over 190 or over 185. I'd just like to add that Dan has been working for me for over 5 years now. He's been there forever. He's seen everything in South Boston there is to see. And since he's been working for us, we've never been written up for an overcapacity when he's working. I honestly don't remember being written up for an overcapacity at all, but it definitely hasn't happened on Dan's watch in the last 5 years. So he was surprised when the count was at 202. He had told me that he had asked for a recount, but the detectives, I think at that point, were happy after they did the count, because they had filtered it down under 185 at that point. I think they had let a lot of people leave while the detectives were there and didn't let anybody else in. So by the time they left, I think we were down to like 170 or something like that. So I guess we've stressed it to Dan and the door staff since then to, let's keep this count as accurate as we possibly can, and just make sure that we keep it at that 185 going forward. I can answer any other questions if you guys have any, but we'll continue to be diligent about the count and keeping it under the 190.
And the
Thank you,
Commissioners
Chairman
may have
Joyce.
some questions for you.
Thank you very much. Chairman Joyce, any questions?
Thank you. I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Curran?
Do you have a procedure when you're at or near capacity to do periodic head counts and not just rely on the door count?
Yeah, we do. We do. We always have one, at least two, if not three or four door staff on. We usually don't need them for crowd control, but it is good to have one by the back door or have one that can walk around and do a count. Obviously, there's sometimes people in the bathroom and just moving around on the floor. So it is tough to get an exact count, but it's not like we say every hour on the hour, go do a count, but the managers are constantly telling the door staff to go do a count to make sure that we're at the right number when we are at capacity or close to capacity. So I'd like to say it's an hourly thing. It might happen a little bit more frequently than that if it's a crazy night or day. But that happens every shift if we're up around capacity.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
No questions from me. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this under advisement as well.
Thank you.
And calling item number 12, New York Pizza Inc. doing business as New York Pizza located at 435 Massachusetts Ave in Roxbury, dated the incident March 11th, 2023, expired ISD certificate in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 9 and Boards Rule 1.02b, and no manager on duty in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 9. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Attorney Thomas E. Fitty Jr. for the licensee. And online, I have George Axiotis, the manager, one of the managers, because it's owned by two brothers, George and Stephen. And also there's a young man, Billy Axiotis, but I recognize it as Jimmy Axiotis. He's using his brother's phone. Kind of confused me there because, you know, brothers sometimes look alike. Anyhow, I don't understand why the inspection license was, because I have it right here and I sent it to it, and it was issued on January 4th of 2023 and good to February 8th, 2024. And I have it right here and I sent it to Mr. Green the other day and to others. And here's a copy of it right here in my hand.
Thank you. We will get to that when we actually get to the matter.
Yes.
Right now, we're just introducing the parties. So thank you.
Yes.
I think we have you as well as your two witnesses. And I will ask who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department.
Detective William Gallagher, and I believe there's a first report written by Officer James Doherty. I can read that. There's a second report by Detective Hernandez. If he has that, he can read that, or I'll read all three. Matter which way board wants me to go.
Thank you very much. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this afternoon?
Detective Hernandez, I'll read that second report.
Great. Thank you very much. Can all who are planning on testifying, please raise your right hand? That will be Mr. Axiotis. Yep, thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Sergeant Detective Gallagher, you'll be reading the first report.
Yes, good afternoon. I'll be reading the report written by Officer James Doherty. At about 10:18 p.m. on Saturday, 3/11/2023, Officers Doherty and Walsh, while assigned to the Delta 103, responded to a radio call for removal at New York Pizza located at 435 Mass Ave, Boston. Officers LaRosa, the Delta 101 in Keenan, the Delta 101F, Officer Crowley in the Delta 203F, McDonough in the Delta 203F, and Dunbar in the Delta 421F, and Kearney in the 431F also responded. It should be noted the call was changed from removal to an armed robbery prior to officers' arrival. Upon arrival, officers observed the suspect, Lagual Harley Edwards, standing outside the restaurant. The suspect, Harley Edwards, stated that he was attempting to get free pizza, which the staff usually gives him. The suspect, Harley Edwards, stated that today he was not given food, so he began to ask customers to buy him food or for money. The suspect was asked to leave New York Pizza by the New York Pizza staff, and the suspect initially refused, but eventually left on his own. Officers asked if the suspect had any weapons on him, and the suspect stated that he did not. A pat frisk of the suspect corroborated the suspect's statements that he was unarmed. Officers asked restaurant staff member Jimmy Axiotis when the armed robbery occurred. Mr. Axiotis stated that there was no armed robbery, and he reported it because he believed that the police response would be quicker. Officers informed Axiotis that he was making a false 911 call is a crime. Officers informed the suspect, Holly Edwards, he was trespassed from New York Pizza, and if he should return, he would be subject to arrest. Officers' body-worn cameras were activated during the incident. That's Officer Doherty's report.
Thank you. We have
I'll
two
be reading,
supplementals.
I'll be reading the supplemental report on Sunday, March 12th, 2023. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the licensed premise unit, responded to New York Pizza located at 535 Mass Ave. Detectives were there to speak to staff regarding making a false 911 call stating that an armed robbery was occurring at the establishment. Report number 232018986. While attempting to speak to a person in charge regarding this incident, staff stated there was no manager on duty. On reviewing the licenses, certificates, and permits in the establishments, detectives observed there was no current inspectional services department certificate posted. The one there expired in 2/8/2023, and no current City of Boston entertainment license. The one there expired in 2022. As a result of what detectives observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued a license for inspection notice 060183 for no current ISD certificate posted and no current City of Boston entertainment license. Staff refused to sign for the notice. That is on my supplemental.
And one more supplemental written by myself on 4/23/2023 at about 10:35 p.m. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez, signed a licensed premise unit, were assigned to drop off a hearing notice to New York Pizza at 435 Mass Ave. This notice was for an upcoming hearing scheduled on 5/23 at Boston City Hall. The notice was sent by the Boston Licensing Board. Inside the premise, detectives spoke to the front counter employees, presented the notice, which requires an employee's signature as proof of delivery. The two employees detectives spoke to refused to sign. After failing to obtain an employee's signature, detectives left with the unsigned hearing notice. And that's all the reports we have.
Thank you very much. And now Attorney Finnerty, would you like to address the alleged incident, please?
All right. Good afternoon, members of the commissioner, Madam Chair Lady. Officer Sergeant Gallagher, you weren't there on March 11th, were you?
No, sir, we were called by the Lieutenant Detective at District 4 relaying the concerns of the false 911 call. That's how we were notified.
In the report that you just read, that does name a lot of other police officers. The suspect freely admits that he was in there trying to get free food, trying to get money from the customers, trying to get food from the customers, and refused to leave, didn't he?
Yeah, well, yes, sir. I think the initial call was for the removal, but then it was upgraded to an armed robbery by someone inside premise, assuming it was the manager. As he stated to the police, the reason for the call that was an armed robbery was to get the police there quicker. And that's why all those units responded.
Correct. But you weren't there to see how belligerent this person was at the time.
No,
The
sir,
suspect.
I was not.
And that sometimes people could be belligerent and threatening just by their own questions and demanding and menacing people, that yourself as a police officer, oftentimes you don't know whether someone's armed or dangerous or at any time period. In fact, after listening to several stories while waiting my turn, I heard a lot of incidents where people didn't know what was going to happen until somebody got punched or until somebody got stabbed. I watched all those things. So from the perspective of the restaurateur, the pizzeria, you never know. You can't put your hands on them, because you put your hands on them, that's an assault and battery. You can't get them out of there. He refuses to leave. Now, it says in the report that you read that he left voluntarily. Do you know whether he left voluntarily after he heard the sirens or before he heard the sirens?
I don't know, so I'm just gonna go with the police report that he left voluntarily. It seemed like he's there all the time. It seemed like the staff knows him. Report stated that he goes in there frequently, so I think to be a little relationship between the staff and the suspect, because it seems like he's there all the time.
So he's a frequent harasser of the patrons and the people who work there.
That doesn't mention harassment, sir. It just mentions they want to remove.
if you were sitting there having your pizza and your Coca-Cola, and some person kept on coming up to you, give me some money, give me
Attorney,
some pizza, wouldn't you call that harassment?
Attorney, can you focus your questions for Sergeant Gallagher on the ones that are pertinent to what happened that day?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm not a judge, but go right ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair. I'm just used to my usual form.
Yeah,
At that time period, Jimmy Axiotis was present, and he's also present on the computer here. I don't see his face right now, but he was a young man with the facial hair, where it says Billy Axiotis. I also don't think he raised his hand when you gave the oath, Mr. Green.
He did. I did.
I
see
saw
it.
that George Axiotis did, but I didn't see what he did. And I just want to make sure everything's on the level with my client and everything else like that. Now, you made a call, Mr. Axiotis, Jimmy Axiotis, to the Boston Police, didn't you?
Correct.
Could you describe what this individual, Mr. Holly, was doing?
He was bothering the customers.
Besides bothering the customers, what was his demeanor?
Food, money.
Do you know what I mean by demeanor?
I have no idea what that means.
It means what was he? Was he angry? Was he just in a happy way? Was he menacing?
I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's just
Were you fearful of approaching him?
Yeah, I wouldn't approach him.
Why not?
I wouldn't go outside the counter.
Is there a reason you wouldn't go outside the counter?
I don't know what he has on him or what he would do to me.
Okay. Did you actually call the police yourself?
Yes,
And did you tell the police that this guy was committing an armed robbery?
I said they might have a knife.
You said he might have a knife. Is that all you said?
I believe so.
Did you see a knife?
I did not,
So why do you think he might have a knife?
because he kept bothering everybody and telling everybody that he wants free food or money.
So at this time period, were you afraid of this individual?
Yes,
He wasn't docile inside that restaurant, was he?
I don't know what that means.
He wasn't friendly,
Oh, no, he wasn't.
and he wasn't cooperative, was he?
No,
Did you ask him to leave?
plenty of times.
And when you asked him to leave, did he leave?
He did not.
And the result of him not leaving after multiple requests, what did you then do?
Call the police.
Did you tell the police this guy was committing an armed robbery?
I do not think so.
So earlier you just said, I thought he had a knife.
Yes,
You never said that he was committing a robbery.
correct.
And for all you know, he might have had a knife.
He could have,
And for all you know, he could have ditched the knife before the police arrived.
correct.
Now, also, the Officer Hernandez, pardon me, I'm going to switch to Detective Hernandez. You were there the following night on Sunday, the March 12th, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And when you were there, didn't appear to be a manager there, is that correct?
I don't know who they were, sir. There were some staff there. I don't know.
And the two staff members that were there, they had foreign accents, didn't they?
They spoke to us perfectly, sir. They might
One
have
of them
had
didn't have an Arabic accent?
That's irrelevant, sir. They were speaking English to us. It doesn't matter what their accent was, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure that everybody understood what was being said.
No, they understood English. They were speaking English to us. Doesn't matter what accent they have, sir.
But they refused to sign the paper that you had, isn't
Yes,
that
sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Did they seem fearful?
No, sir.
All right. I also have on line the manager of Reckitt, George Axiotis. At that night, on the 12th of March, 2023, Jimmy Axiotis was there early. When the police officers came, according to their report, about 10:18 p.m., or in their jargon, 22:18, Mr. Axiotis, the Jimmy Axiotis, was feeling sick and ill and tired and had left. So he was not there because he was not well and he had to leave. And that's true that there was no one there to sign. And I will tell you that I've been told by the Axiotises that the person who was in charge at that time period was an immigrant from Turkey, and he was deathly afraid of police officers. And that's why he refused to say or do anything when Officer Detective Hernandez was there along with the other police officer. That sometimes people who are new to this country, based on their interactions with police officers in their own country, view police officers a lot differently than someone who's doesn't have the immigration issues or may not have immigration issues. That's what I'm submitting on that. And also for the licenses, I said inappropriately earlier, out of turn, there is an inspectional service license that I'm sure it's in the file. This was issued on the 4th of January, 2023. And it's good to February 8th, 2024. So there was one there. How it was not seen by the police, I don't know. I also asked the issue of the entertainment license, which is for a radio. I have one of those too. And it's unfortunate for what my client did, because I submit to the commission that everybody knows near Mass Ave, there's an issue. There's an issue that's on television almost every night about assaults happening down there, the methadone, so-called methadone mile. And these individuals migrate sometimes into this store, and it's not quite sure what may or may not happen when confronted to leave, which is why they call the police, which is why my client stupidly and ignorantly changed it to, I think he might have a knife, thinking the police would be there quicker and remove the situation faster before more customers decided, well, I'm not coming here anymore. And it's very frustrating as a person running a pizzeria that, you know, people come in there and ask for money and ask for food, and they don't leave when they're told to leave. I mean, I understand that, you know, everybody has their own situation, but it's also they're trying to run a business. And sooner or later, if this issue is not addressed, you're going to have no businesses on Mass Ave and Columbus Ave.
Attorney, are you done?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am,
Okay.
Madam Commissioner.
I see that, I understand that your certificate was up to date, but who's in charge here? Is it George or the other brother?
Attorney of record is George, excuse me, attorney of record. Manager of record is George Axiotis and Stephen Axiotis.
Okay, George and Stephen. Are you aware?
George is here on the screen.
Yeah, I see him. Are you aware that you need to have your current licenses posted?
Mr. Axiotis,
Yes.
you answer?
Okay,
Yes, yes.
I'm not disputing whether it was renewed or not. It has to be posted in clear view for when any inspector comes in.
Yes.
Okay. As far as the 911 call, Detective Hernandez or Sergeant Gallagher or Lieutenant Troy, are any of you familiar with the 911 call and what's the call, what was called in?
Yeah, Lieutenant Detective Troy, just reading from the computer-aided dispatch here, it says, and the initial call was at 21:38, and it says the caller states that there's a customer refusing to leave. And then it gives a description, caller states it's a black male, and he says that it's in the above. They call the call back is at 21:41, some 3 minutes later, and the caller states that the male is inside at the above, and it says with the knife trying to rob the store. That's on the same computer-aided dispatch here, the 911 call, and on the same call it says updated caller stating black male trying to rob them, and then it gives a description wearing a red coat. No knife was shown, and so on and so forth. And the first units get there and they place the person in custody, and they update the dispatcher that no knife was shown.
Okay. Thank you. Steve, is it Steve? Was it Steve that made that call?
No, Mr. Chairman, it was the young man who's labeled as Billy Axiotis. In reality, that's Jimmy Axiotis, the young man with the beard. he's the one who made the actual call,
Okay,
as
And-
I said earlier, stupidly and ignorantly.
okay. Thank you. Commissioner Curran, Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions?
It's more to the manager on duty or anybody in charge. You know, at any given time, someone has to be there that's gonna be responsive to police, to customers, anything. Would you agree with that?
Yes, he was there when the police officers showed up, Doherty.
No, we have two incidences where you're saying lower level employees, you know, were afraid of the police, didn't want to interact with them, correct?
Correct, I did say that. There was the following night.
Yeah, and then we have one more time after that with a notice of this hearing, correct?
There's two nights, a Saturday, the 11th of March, and a Sunday, the 12th of March. The 12th of March is the one where Detective Hernandez was there
Yeah.
with his partner, and they brought along the citation and they wanted it signed by somebody in charge, and they refused to sign.
Okay.
That night was the
So-
second night. And
And then we
Mr.
have a third,
Axiotis
we
had
have a
gone
third
home.
night. I don't know if you've caught it, but when Sergeant Detective Gallagher was delivering the notice of a hearing in front of us, once again, they didn't want to sign for it.
That notice that I'm looking at now is
Yeah.
dated March 12th. It's the same incident.
No, there's a third one.
Oh.
So you have the notice of violation. That's the initial time that you're notified that the Boston Police had found a violation. And then later on, they tried to hand deliver the hearing notice, the notice that was informing you guys that we were going to be holding a hearing.
This one here that I'm holding?
No, that's the notice of violation.
Okay.
And then the first page of what you have stapled together there is the hearing notice.
Yes.
Okay, that was hand delivered.
Oh, you mean the cover letter to everything?
Exactly.
Oh.
That was hand delivered and that once again, the employees refused to sign for it.
I actually did sign for it. I have that copy here. That's
You
the
were
one-
there and you signed for it?
Yes, I do have a paper and I did ask him for a business card. He couldn't give me a business card. That was Gallagher, Detective Gallagher, or
What day did you sign for that?
I'm not sure, but he gave me a business card for licensing board and Rebecca Fu. So he couldn't give me his own business card though.
Sergeant Detective Gallagher, was that a different day than April 23rd?
That's probably a different day. First time we were there was to speak with regards to the bogus 911 call.
Yep.
We conducted an inspection. That was not signed for.
Yep.
Then on the delivery notice for the hearing coming up, there was no signature. As the report states, it was left there without a signature.
Yep.
If it was signed after we left. We did not bring a copy of it back.
I can clear this up. It was signed. This hearing was rescheduled. It was
Yes.
the second hearing date. So when officers went to serve notice of the revised hearing date, which is today, that was delivered on May 20th. It was signed on that date. But the initial hearing notice was not signed for.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thanks
so
for the
we're,
clarification. I was confused on that.
all right, so what I'm concerned with, we have, it's not just one time, we have two separate instances where, basically the employees that were present, and all the employees that were present, disclaimed any kind of responsibility. Would you agree that we don't want that happening?
Oh, certainly, Mr. Commissioner, but the first time he admits freely, Jimmy Axiotis, that he made the call.
Now, I'm not talking about the call. I'm talking about having a person in charge at any given time when the business is open. We can't have instances where the police show up and the employees throw their hands up saying, in actuality, every single employee is under an obligation to be cooperative with the police. You understand that, right?
Yes,
Not just a manager.
I understand it in cooperation.
Ideally,
position of the
the
license.
business is at any given time left in the hands of someone that is responsible, that if it's not the owners, it's someone the owners trust to run that business in their absence, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so that's what you've been written up for today, right? No manager on duty?
yes, there was no manager on duty at that time when the police showed up on March 12th.
Yeah. Okay, and manager on duty in my experience has not been the actual manager of record. It's just someone that that has been left in charge, that the manager of record and the owners see as responsible to handle the business while they're away, correct?
Correct. This is the son of the owner, this Jimmy Axiotis, the
Yeah.
nephew
and
of the man
he-
over here.
He would have qualified, and he did qualify the other day that he signed for the hearing notice. But on 2 other occasions, he wasn't there and no one else responsible was there, correct?
On March 12th, when the police officer Hernandez showed up, that's correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Nothing additional, thank you.
Thank you. With that, the board will take this matter under advisement as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Those are all of the matters before the board today that will adjourn today's hearing. Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.